Denise DiStaci adopted her rescue dog Louie in 2013 in Cincinnati, where she grew up. In addition to being an author, DiStaci is a noted speaker and workshop facilitator. After graduating from Xavier University with a degree in radiologic science, she spent 27 years in the medical industry. Her positions over that time ranged from nuclear product specialist to manager and vice president of sales and marketing. Also, she has her dog here.
All right, thank you. This is Louie. All right, Louie's already gotten a ton of attention that I'm pretty used to. I have to tell people all the time, I'm Louie's mom. Nobody cares about my name, just Louie's mom. So I have a question for you. How many of you would consider yourself a leader? Just raise your hand. Okay, not so many, but a few. All right, that's okay. That's all right. Now I have another question for you. I want you to think about this. I want you to think really hard. When you think about leadership, I want you to give me a one-word description of what leadership means to you. One-word description. And I want you to just shout it out, but I want to try to hear as many as we can. Okay? One word. Respect. What is it? Honor. Go. Sacrifice. Unity. Anything else? Volunteer. Reliable. Teamwork. Good. These are good responses. So I'm here to talk to you about my two favorite subjects, which are leadership and Louie. And as the intro said, I adopted Louie in 2013. So this is not a story about how my little dog changed from a really bad dog to obviously a really good dog. It's about what I learned in my working with this dog and all the years of leadership training and leadership positions that I've ever had. I learned more from adopting this little dog and working with him. And in fact, we came up with a 5-step program. And the 5-step program is going to be really easy for you to remember because it spells out his name. And in order for you all to be leaders, whether you go to college, whether you go to work somewhere, if you're going to be a leader, the very first thing you have to learn is how to be relational. And so we toss that word around a lot, but being relational is really important. Let me give you a little bit of background about Louie. Louie was in the back streets of Boyd County, Kentucky, years ago, about 2013. How he got there, we don't know. I don't know if he escaped somewhere, if he just ran away, or if somebody just abandoned him. But he was in the back streets of Boyd County, Kentucky. And somebody took him in, brought him to the shelter, and then took him to PetSmart, and they did an Adopt-A-Pet weekend. And I had seen a sign for the Adopt-A-Pet weekend at PetSmart, and I thought, I'm just going to go check it out. Not getting a dog, just going to check it out. So I walk into the place, and there's all these little dogs in these little crates, and they're all running all over the place and jumping up and down, and they're acting really crazy. And there was one little guy in one crate who was very quiet, very calm, and very docile. And I thought, oh, I need to check this out. Now, the sign over his crate said Chandler. So I took Chandler out of the crate, and I walked him around, the store, and he was really good with other people. He was really good with other dogs, and he was really good with children, which was really important to me because I have 2 granddaughters, and I wanted to make sure that he was safe with them. And he was not my typical little dog. I've had foo-foo-y little dogs that have teeny tiny mouths. Louie's got a big mouth, and so I thought, I better make sure he's safe. So he was really good with the kids in the store. So I adopted him. I took him home, and I called him Louie because, it just fits, Louie DiStaci, right? So after a few hours, he started to get to be a little bit more rambunctious. And then he started to really act out. And then he started to get really bad. And he was aggressive, and he was like a crazy dog. He was totally different than how he was at the store. And I thought, oh, I don't think I like this dog very much. I mean, I liked him a lot when he was quiet and he was calm. I didn't like him so much when he was acting out and he was acting aggressive and he was jumping up on my furniture and he was being really bad. And so I recognized something that I didn't know I would really have to do. You see, when you see Louie, it's really easy to think he's really cute and really lovable. And all of us here probably love dogs. But when he started to behave badly, I realized I had to choose to love him. And that was not an easy choice. In fact, I called the adoption place and said, yeah, what is your policy for returning dogs? And they said, just try to work with him. I said, I will, because you know what? I committed to adopting him and working with him. I committed to loving him and giving him a good home. So while it was easy to like him when he was in the crate, it was not so easy to like him or love him when he acted out. And that's very much like how we are. You know, all of us have some bad things in our lives that just kind of come out sideways sometimes. And in order for us to be a relational leader, we have to love people. So the first step in this 5-step process for leadership is love. It's L. It stands for love. Now, we have a really funny thought about love. We think of the Hollywood love, we think of the social media love, and I'm going to challenge you today. What does loving other people actually mean? When you think about it, it actually means that you serve other people. And here's a key for you young folks, because please don't get to my age and try to figure this one out. All right? When you look at other human beings as human beings, it's real easy to love them. When you look at them as objects, not so easy. You can be mean to them. You can talk about them behind your back, their backs. You can be all sorts of things, nasty. You can post mean social media things. But if you look at people as an object as opposed to a human being, you are not going to love them. In order to love people, you have to look at them as a human being. You know, there's a reason we're called human beings. It's because we need to be loving. We need to be caring, not just do nice things. So I had to learn kind of a difficult lesson in loving Louie. Louie's all about the camera. He's like, oh, let me look over here at this camera. Now I'll look over here at this camera. All right, the first thing I needed to learn was what with Louie. It starts with an L? Love. All right, not an easy thing to do, but I'm going to ask you and challenge you. Go home tonight and practice being a loving, kind, patient, trustworthy person. Be a loving person. Don't expect people to love you first. You be that loving person. You be trustworthy. You be honest. Those are the characteristics of love, okay? So the second step, the next letter in the Louie model is O. And that stands for objectives. Who can tell me what an objective is? Real quick. There's another word for it. Goal. Perfect. So O stands for objective. You see, I had to learn and understand what it would take for me to really love this dog and train him in order for him to be a good pet for me and for my family. So my trainer, who I hired finally, comes into my house and he's like, Denise, this dog doesn't know who's the boss. And that was the very first objective I had to learn, was to be the boss of this dog. I'm like, what do you mean he doesn't know who's the boss? I mean, I'm bigger than him. I'm the human. You know, I own the home. I made an assumption that he would just know I'm the boss. So I had to learn to be Louie's alpha. Do you know what an alpha is? Yeah, I am the leader of the pack. I had to learn to be the leader of the pack. That was my very first objective. In order for me to do that, I had to teach him not to go out the door before me, not to go back into the door before me, not to get up on my bed, not to get up on my furniture. He wasn't allowed to do that. I was the alpha dog. He had to pay attention to me. My very first objective was to learn to be the alpha. The next part of that was to be the person who could be trained. I mean, here I am teaching leadership, and I had to understand that somebody was going to train me to be this dog's leader. I had to be okay with that. There's many leaders out there today who are like, yeah, I got it. I don't need any more work. I'm good. I don't need anybody to teach me anything. Be teachable. Be okay with learning and continuing to learn as leaders. So the second part of this, the first letter is what? Okay, L stands for love. The second letter is O, stands for objectives. So the third part of this whole model is U. And U stands for understanding people. How many of you have had a misunderstanding already today? Yeah, most of us probably would. Had a misunderstanding with somebody. Why? Because they didn't listen, they didn't hear, you weren't communicating in the way that they could hear. Some way we miscommunicate all the time. How difficult is it for us to really take time to understand other people? So, have any of you learned ever about body language or tone of voice? That's a really important way to communicate. So Louie watches my body language all the time. He knows that when I'm standing here talking, he knows when I'm like commanding him to come downstairs or I'm doing something. He watches my body language all the time. So when you do one of these to your mom or dad, you know, like that. I mean, I have a 9-year-old granddaughter who does that to me. And that's just not, you know, she doesn't do it very often. Well, maybe she's only done it once, actually. So, but our body language is communicating a message and actually communicates 55% of the message that we're trying to tell somebody. So when you're standing like this, like that, okay, and you're talking to somebody, what are you saying to that person? Yeah, boring, not interested, could care less what you're saying. But when you're engaged and you're listening, when you're using a tone of voice that people will want to engage with you, that makes all the difference in the world of how our messages are being communicated. So the third part of my Louie leadership model is U, which stands for understand. Awesome. So why are you staring at him? Come over here. Okay, so we have love, objectives, understand. All right, the fourth letter is I, and I stands for invest. Invest in other people. You know, when you kind of think somebody's a little strange and you're not really sure, like, what they're all about, it's really easy to judge them, isn't it? It's really easy to judge. We do it all the time. We're humans. We do it all the time. But when we take time to get to know someone, that's huge. Invest that time to get to know people. Invest time to be able to say that you care about them. Invest in them. Invest in training. Invest in giving a skill set that you have or can share with somebody. But invest your time. It's really important that as leaders, that when you take the time to give to someone else, you are investing and pouring into them because other people are pouring into you and investing in you. So that's really key. I had to invest a lot of time into Louie. You know, I told you he was in Boyd County, Kentucky. That shelter there had put out all kinds of bulletins to all sorts of places to find out if anybody could claim Louie. They didn't call him Louie. I don't know what his name was. It wasn't even Chandler. That's what the shelter gave him. But they put out all sorts of bulletins. They put out all sorts of notices because they don't want to put anybody up for adoption, any dog, unless they know for certain the family is nowhere to be found. Nobody claimed this little dog. Nobody. No one came to claim this little dog. I mean, how sad is that? When I committed to adopting him, loving him, and giving him objectives and goals, or both of us having that, understanding some of his stuff and his background, understanding who he is, I started investing my time into him, changed this dog. Changed him. All because I gave him some time. That makes a world of difference for our people who want to be leaders, that you have to be willing to invest time. So I stands for invest. And then the last letter is E, and that is empower and encourage. So you can't empower and encourage other people if you don't love them and care about them. If you're not understanding if you're not setting up objectives and goals for what direction are we going in life, what direction are we going in as a team, what direction are we going in as a senior class, you can't empower and encourage somebody if you don't understand who they are as a person, if you don't understand their background, if you don't understand, what's going on in their world or how you're communicating. You can't empower and encourage if you don't invest time into them to help them. And you can't possibly encourage and empower if you're not willing to be that person to affirm somebody's heart. Take that time to affirm and encourage. So see, to be a leader, I have a whole different definition of leadership. To me, leadership is really about influencing somebody in a decision-making process. You can influence them for good, or you can influence them for bad. I hope today, as we talked, that you understand how to influence for good by walking through the Louie leadership model. So tell me again, really, really loud, what does the L stand for? Love. Great. What does the O stand for? Objective. Awesome. What does the U stand for? Understanding, perfect. And what does the I stand for? Investing. And what does the E stand for? Empowering and encouraging. So what I hope you got today was the fact that there's a really simple way to be a relational leader. As you go out into this world, business world's not going to teach you how to love people, okay? Been in business for 40 years, something like that. A long time. I've never learned about loving other people in any business class that I ever took, but I will tell you it is key to you being excellent, authentic, genuine, relational leaders. First, understand how to love other people by being a loving person. It transformed a little dog's life. It transformed people's lives that I am involved with today. It will transform your life. It will transform every relationship you have. Be a loving person. Thank you.